Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business. All right, today we are joined by Sheri Darby, who is the president of Walker Mechanical. This is going to be a great conversation. Enjoyed meeting Sheri and hearing some of her story. Just a couple of things to set it up. One, she's a CFO turned into the leadership role. That doesn't happen a lot. And she's a female in a male-dominated industry, and that doesn't happen a lot. So looking forward to kind of hearing some of those perspectives and just more about the story of her and Walker Mechanical. So Sheri, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of came into being in this role.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. I started out, as you said, in the CFO capacity. I accountant by education and spent my entire career in the accounting field. About 15 years ago, I went to work for an electrical contractor, which is also like large construction, commercial and industrial. And shortly after I joined the company, we went 100% ESOP, which is employee owned. And that was baptism by fire for that. I didn't know what it was, didn't even know what it stood for. And then I found that that was my passion, that I absolutely loved employee ownership and the development of the culture and the growth of wealth for the employees. And so fast forward about 8 years after that, I wasn't real satisfied with some of the things that were happening. And I started looking, and Walker Mechanical had just gone 100% employee owned, and they were looking for a CFO that had construction and ESOP experience, and it fit. And so my husband and I moved to Louisville, and I've been at Walker since. And about 3 years ago, we exited the selling owner, and I've since then stepped into the president role.
Yeah. So several things come to mind there. One is, you talk about you fell in love with the employee ownership model.
Mm-hmm.
I've run across a handful of these. They're not super common, but not uncommon either.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are in kind of this type of industry, I think.
They are.
It seems like. What makes ESOP kind of popular in this type of industry, and what makes a good candidate for an ESOP, I guess?
So you'll see a lot of mom and pop companies. They've started, maybe they've grown to a really large company. Maybe they are, small to medium size. It's an exit strategy, and it oftentimes maybe there's not a family member to take over the business, or maybe there is a family member and they just don't want it. It provides the owner the opportunity to withdraw their funds, as in selling the company. But it allows the company to remain intact and the employees to keep their jobs. And, in a typical acquisition, you're peeling off the pieces that you want and getting rid of the pieces that you don't. And so it's a way to transfer that ownership to the employees and allow them to continue to grow and develop it. So
it's a good alternative versus selling to a big company comes in and whacks the management team, the accounting
or it's a private equity or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon, especially construction, engineering, architectural. There's probably, I think last count, there's about 15 ESOPs just here in Louisville alone.
Yeah.
So
it seems like it's always in that construction or engineering.
It is. There's a lot of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Tell us a little more the story you shared with me earlier about kind of how you kind of stepped into that president role. It was not really planned. It was kind of like an accidental thing. And the next thing you know, it's, hey, why don't you just be it going forward? Tell us
Or
more about that.
well, a little bit more about Walker. It was started in '86 by a gentleman named Ray Walker, and still hoping I can find him and invite him to our open house next year. But anyway, he sold the company in 2000 to our selling owner, and he um, he grew the company to, from, I don't know, roughly 3 million to probably about 40 million in revenue. And, just decided it was time for him to retire, didn't have anyone to sell the company to, and didn't have anyone to take over it. So he decided to keep it intact and form the ESOP, which was, I think, a great idea. Like I said, I started as the CFO, and that's always been my passion, was to be that right hand and to be that the business encouragement, and to see through the evolution of the employee ownership model. And as we were exiting the selling owner, the CEO president that we had selected, was ultimately not a good fit for the company. The company went through a really rough patch, lost quite a few employees, which is not completely unexpected when your exiting owner departs. Got a lot of
Sure.
loyalties there.
Yep.
Um, we just got into a bad place, and I knew that we were not going to be able to find a new president in the condition that we were in. So I put a plan together, and I went to our board and I said, I think I can fix this. I need 6 months, a year. I think I can fix this, and then we can go hire someone else.
Yeah.
And they had all the faith in the world in me and really put everything they could behind me and supported me. Through that process, I was able to develop an amazing leadership team, and it's just absolutely solid. And we turned it around. And then they convinced me to stay in the position of president about a year later. And so I've been in the role since 23. So
Yeah. That's an awesome story, and I when I especially when I was speaking to younger people, they'll ask like, how did you advance? How did you build a successful career? And I tell a similar stories of how I would look for opportunities when I was in corporate America. I would look for opportunities of things that others didn't want to do, or broke projects that were struggling, or whatever, or teams that were struggling, and I would step up. I'd raise my hand and say,
there,
I'll tackle that. And so many. I mean, not picking on our younger generations, and so many of our younger generations just expect instant gratification. They just want
mhm,
things to just happen, and you have to sometimes, take that, take the bull by the reins or whatever, and or by the horn or whatever that saying is, and you just have to, you have to step into that leadership role, and
I,
bravo for you for doing that. It takes a lot of courage.
I
Uh,
was absolutely terrified. My husband thought I was crazy, but said
yeah,
he would be supportive. My biggest concern was that, as you mentioned, it's very male dominant, that they just would not be accepting of me, because I can tell you when our plumbing and our HVAC don't work, but that's the extent of I have learned quite a bit since I've
yeah.
been here. And I'm actually to the point where I can read some of the drawings and understand a lot of what's going on from for the actual work, but they don't want me turning a wrench, that's for sure.
That's actually interesting, because so many businesses feel like they have to have a leader that understands the details. But I think a lot of times, if you're a good leader, you don't have to live in the
Correct.
details. In fact, there's a value to being kind of a step or two removed from that.
Well,
How's that play in to your leadership style?
so, I mean, right off the bat, I had to get the two division leaders. We have a service division and a construction division, and get them on board and help them understand that they're the experts, and I'm going to rely on them. They both came up through the trade and know it intimately, and I just they're both my rocks.
Yeah.
And, I go to them for all of the advice. They have great relationships with the union. And so it's just, they have good knowledge of the union, good knowledge of the industry. And I just help to guide from more of the financial and business perspective. So.
Yeah. So, how would you describe your leadership style? What do compared to maybe a traditional
Mhm.
leader in this style company? What's different about you, and how would you describe it?
Well, some of it I believe is not necessarily just me and my style, but embracing the employee ownership culture. It's a very collaborative culture. Ultimately, there comes times where I have to make a decision, and it's my decision, and we got to move with that. But we spend, you know, several hours a week, running through what's happening next, where are we going, how are we going to get there. We just implemented EOS and working, through that, trying to set the stage for the next 3, 5, 10 years.
Mhm.
And again, it's very collaborative. It's let's let's set a goal and then break it down and figure out how we're going to get there. So, and
Yeah.
I think they appreciate that it's not I don't want to call it a dictatorship, but it's they have a lot of input.
Yeah. So, is there that feeling of, oh, everybody's part owner, so I've got a voice? Is that present
It
there?
is. Our union employees are not included in that structure, and
Okay.
that's not uncommon because they have their own pension plan.
Right.
So that's not really uncommon. We've structured some things internally to reward them and try to bring them into that same concept of employee ownership. But we treat all of them as though they are our employees, and they have influence in the growth of the company. So.
Yeah. Cool. So, what's been your biggest challenge to overcome as in your stint as president?
Hmm. Well, getting us right-sided and removing some, I'm not sure what to call it. There was a mindset that there was a cap on how we could bid and what profit we could command.
Hmm.
And it was like we were stuck in a rut. And there was also a little bit of ego happening there, like, well, we're going to bid this just so this company doesn't get it. And if we have to, we'll give it away just so they don't get it. And so we had to restructure how we were bidding and how we were approaching relationships with external customers, um, and then even with the internal customers, how we were handing off from when we bid and award a job to, how we're transferring that information to the project manager and the team that's going to run the job. And some of it was we just had to have a very hard conversation. You just got to check your ego at the door, because that's not how we're going to function now. That isn't what makes money, and we're not going to be in business if we can't make money. So, it was restructuring. There was a mental reset that had to happen, and that was a challenge. I mean, again, great team on board, and they understood when we broke it down, and they said, "All right, we get it. Now we know what we got to go do." And so, still running through a little bumps here and there with the our competitors. We are all part of a collective union, where it's a multi-employer
Right.
union. And our competitors are all led by men. And I think they finally decided I'm not going away, and they just don't know what else to do with me. So they're going to bring me into the fold. And so they recently elected me to the board of directors for the Mechanical Contractors Association. So I'll be the first female to serve in that capacity. So.
So a
Well,
little bit of old boys club that
it
you
is, it
had to
is.
break into.
Good old boys network.
Yeah,
And so, breaking through that with some of the the customers and the vendors, and they all seem very surprised when they learn who I am and what my role is. So
well, it's there's glass ceilings everywhere, right?
well, we
You
are
need
absolutely
to-
having our best year ever. And we had our best year ever last year, and we're exceeding that already for this year and have great
that's
targets
awesome.
set
So
for
what do
next
you
year.
attribute that to? I mean,
I
you can pat
think
yourself on the back
I
if
think
you
it's
want, but
well, I mean, we're profitable because we gutted some things and really shared information and helped everyone understand where we were and where we needed to be and what it was going to take to get there.
yeah,
But I think a lot of it is just the culture and that folks are just so happy to be here and passionate about
yeah,
what they're doing. And they all take ownership of it. And I don't mean it from an employee ownership.
right.
I own this process and I'm going to make sure it's done right and we're going to succeed as a whole. So,
Yeah. It's interesting that you talked about the bidding process and how that was a big change. And I see a lot of companies who are stuck in their ways,
mhm.
and some of them need to be more aggressive in their bidding, like lower their prices, and they lower their prices, and
Sure.
suddenly they grow the business. And then I've had other clients that like, no, we need to increase our prices because
Mhm.
we're underbidding and we're not making enough money. And so it's that transparency and getting everybody at the table so you really understand your costs. Because if you don't understand
Right.
your
Well,
costs, you can't bid
sure.
properly.
And it's a moving target because if you are starting to wind up the jobs that you have and you need more work, then maybe you have to be a little more aggressive. And then when you have a lot of work, you can be a little more selective and maybe apply a little bit higher margin to it.
Yeah,
So it's a constant dance. So
yeah, yeah. It is. Uh, that's yeah. Even in a small business, a solopreneurship like me, I'm the same
mhm.
way. If I'm super busy, it's like well, I can be really picky on what I take now. Then when I get lighter, it's like, well, I need to be more aggressive. So yeah,
Right.
it's that logic applies across the board.
Sure it
Uh,
does.
so what's next for you guys? What's on the horizon for Walker?
Well, so the main goal 2 years ago was let's just get a stable and consistent and I have a new CFO that's starting beginning of December. I'm super excited to have her so that I can spend my time focusing. Our CFO that we had is retiring, so
Okay, I was gonna say, have you been
she's
playing
part.
both CFO and president?
She's been part time for a little bit, and
Okay,
but we have someone new starting, and we're very fortunate. She's got a good construction background and employee ownership background. Um, we've got some plans. We're thinking about a possible acquisition.
okay,
Um, it would still be something within our wheelhouse. Maybe something that we would normally sub out. Maybe we acquire a company that can allow us to do it in-house instead of subcontracting it out.
yeah,
Um, and we've invested quite a bit in our fabrication shop and hoping maybe someday we can actually sell that outside of the company to, other mechanicals that maybe don't have fabrication capabilities. So,
okay, yeah. There's so many different ways of everybody just thinks expansion. Oh, buy a competitor or whatever, but there's
no,
you're talking about like vertical expansion.
right,
Going down the supply chain one direction or the other.
right.
That's always fascinating to consider that. Uh, do you considering geographic expansion at all? I mean, that's always
So
another.
we've talked about, I mean, we're predominantly here in the Louisville market and that's mostly driven by our workforce, which is part of the union and they have regions. And so if we go outside of that region, it means we need to partner with another union,
Got it.
a local union. And so, we could go to E-Town. They're still in our market here. But we're also looking at Lexington. They've got quite a bit of growth happening there as well. So
Sure. Yeah. Well, E-Town's got, Blue Oval going in, so a lot of things
Sure.
happening there. And
Well, and the some of the general contractors that we work with here also have offices in Lexington, and
yeah,
so the relationship is already there.
sure.
So we'll be looking to maybe do some work. I don't know how soon, if or when we would set up an actual office location, but that's additional overhead, so we'll be conservative with that.
There's your CFO hat coming back.
Right. So
Yeah. Uh, that's fascinating. So, uh, what are you looking forward to? Uh, uh,
me
yeah,
personally,
whether that's personal or business or
uh,
whatever. What's on your horizon?
well, I think I've told you in just general conversation that my husband's a little older than I am, and he's looking to retire here in a couple of years. So I've set my goal as at 5 years here at Walker in this role and helping with the growth. But I'm very involved in the employee ownership community.
Hmm.
And I just recently finished my tenure as president of the Ohio Kentucky chapter. And I've had several companies that service employee-owned companies reach out and say, whenever you're ready, just let us know. We'd love to have you come on board. So may do something like that that allows me to work remotely and so we can take the motor home and do a little bit of traveling. So
Yeah. Well, good. It's always good to have personal as well as business goals, and you're obviously you're doing some great things there, but you want to feel that reward too for what all that you're
sure.
doing.
Yeah.
Uh, so if folks want to learn more about Walker Mechanical,
Mhm.
how do they reach you, and how they find out more about the company?
So we have a website, walkermechanical.com, and we've got quite a bit of information on there, contact ways to contact us. And then I um, we've got our phone numbers, email addresses, et cetera, on the website, and
Okay.
bios even that tell about the individuals, and the whole team is on there. So
Yeah. And I'm sure there's some because I work with some of them, women business owners or women business leaders that are in
yeah.
male oriented fields. Probably y'all probably there's probably a few opportunities for y'all to get together and talk. But I would encourage folks to reach out to you if they want some
Absolutely.
encouragement, because you've had some great success in this role. So want to celebrate that and give you credit and kudos for what you've done.
Thank you.
Well, Sheri, thanks for coming on the show. It's been a great conversation, and I hope folks have gotten some good insight into employee ownership and also just how to work through some of those cultural changes that have to take place. So, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, please share or like it on whatever platform you use. You can find me on social media. On most platforms, I'm John K. Jennings. My first book is also available. Your Baby is Ugly tells you about 10 truths that business owners need to hear, but often won't, and how to overcome them. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for Your Baby is Ugly. And be watching for our next episode, where I'll interview another business owner who will share their stories and insights into what it's like to create a great business.